Hello and welcome, this is Gunner, and we're back with some more BattleTech and my continued look at the backer beta build and single player skirmish mode that is currently the only mode available. For this video I'll be doing my second well-rounded build at the Clash budget level, and the ideal of these well-rounded builds is one scout mech, one preferably two frontline mechs, and one support mech. For this particular loadout, I have a couple mechs doing double duty, as oftentimes you'll have mechs that don't necessarily fit exactly into one specific role. They can do more than one, and in this case, we can kind of stretch that meaning a little bit. I will point out, at this budget level, it can be challenging to make a well-rounded build, because especially at the low end, you don't really have that many options. Let's go ahead and get into the loadout, starting with our first mech here, the Commando, which is going to be serving the role as our scout. And the Commando is the standard variant, so we're going to have an SRM-6, an SRM-4, and a medium laser, which is pretty significant firepower at this weight. For our pilot, we have Mockingbird, and you'll note that I have two pilots with the sensor lock ability. This is a little bit different than what I normally do, as our Locust, which we might as well just go over now, is going to be our secondary scout, but it's also going to be a support mech for us because we're using the 1M variant of the Locust. So the standard variant of the Locust uses two machine guns and a medium laser. This one's going to swap out the machine guns for LRM-5s. The consequence of that is the durability goes down, as you can see there on the bar. But you do gain that long range and indirect fire ability. So this is going to be a support mech for us, but a rather light support mech. And then the Witness is going to be doing double duty as our secondary scout. If something happens to our Commando, we have a backup with our Locust. So the Locust can serve as a scout if we need it to. And that's the way that I have built this particular loadout. Gives us a little bit of a fail-safe in case we do have something like that happen. All right, let's move on to our frontline mechs, starting off with the Shadowhawk. This is the standard version of the Shadowhawk, which is equipped with an SRM-2, a medium laser, an LRM-5, and an AC-5. So you have a number of different weapon systems there, and a number of different range brackets. So you have the AC-5 and the LRM-5 for longer range engagements, and you have a medium laser and an SRM-2 for closer in engagements. The durability of this mech is decent for its weight class. I would say average to maybe very slightly below average. But it has enough durability that I feel like it can serve the role as a frontline mech adequately, at least at this budget level. To help it survive, as I tend to do with my frontline mechs, I tend to focus on defensive abilities. We have Paradise, who has the evasive move ability, which allows you to get the evasive trait or status whenever you move in a turn. You don't need to sprint. Only a normal move or a normal move will do. As a matter of fact, specifically a normal move does not work for reverse moves, in case you're not aware of that. Moving on to our second frontline mech, the Centurion. This is a variant of the standard version of the Centurion. The standard version of the Centurion has an AC-10. We swap out the AC-10 for a large laser and a small laser, but one thing you might notice if you look at the durability bar here, that it goes up quite a bit between the two. So there's added armor to this variant, which is why we have selected it. As far as the rest of the firepower, large laser, small laser, but we also have two medium lasers and an LRM-10 to round out our firepower. Now that LRM-10 is going to allow the Centurion to also be a little bit of a support mech if we want to use it in that way, but this is the most durable of our mechs, so this is the mech that we definitely want to be doing the most tanking out of our two frontline mechs. To help with that tanking, we have Ozone, which has the Bulwark trait or ability, which allows you to have the guarded status whenever you stay stationary, but you can fire during that particular move. So that's going to be very useful to us. So we have a more mobile frontline mech, and we have a more stationary frontline mech. We really want the Centurion to be tanking most of the damage, but the Shadowhawk can help out our other frontline mech. And this is why my ideal is to have two frontline mechs so that you can't overwhelm one of the frontline mechs, start flanking them, and really be able to defeat their defenses, because the guarded status can be removed if you get a rear attack. So again, only have one frontline mech, you do have that liability. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the combat. And as I did in the previous video, we're going to be sticking on the river crossing map so that there can be direct comparisons between these builds. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, the one liability of using Mockingbird as our pilot is that she's not particularly good at gunnery skill. So although our commando has pretty good firepower, I thought it was more important for our support mech in the Locust to have the better gunnery skill, which Witness has much better gunnery skill than Mockingbird does. You could change that choice if you want, because honestly, the Locust's damage potential is not particularly high. You have 2 LRM-5s. It's equivalent to an LRM-10, but it's nowhere near the kind of firepower we had in our previous loadout where our support mech had 2 LRM-15s. So may not be as important to focus your gunnery skill in Witness as opposed to, in the Locust rather than the Commando, because the Commando is going to be dishing out more damage. Again, that's up to you and that's your decision to make. All right, so as we did in the last video, I think we're going to make our stand in this wooded area here. So I'm going to move Paradise in the Shadowhawk over into the woods. I'll put the Shadowhawk fairly close to the action. Although I have to keep in mind this little bit of a rock outcrop is going to block some line of sight where I am right now. We'll grab Ozone and put that in right about here. And then we'll have our commando move over to the side with attempts to get flanking moves. And Witness is going to move up on top of this hill. And that's probably good for now. All right, fingers crossed that the random opponent actually worked at this budget level as opposed to what we saw at the higher war budget where it was just giving me the same opponent every time. So if we see 2 Jenners, a commando, and what's the last mech? A hunchback, then we'll know that this is pretty much failed because there is a number of opponents that we could face. I mean, there's always the probability that you'd get the same opponent again, but from what we saw in previous videos I've done at the same budget level, with just the same opponent over and over and over again, so selecting the random opponent really seemingly didn't do anything. But we'll see with this, if this is a Jenner, which it very well might be at 35 tons. Then we'll see that this random opponent feature really doesn't apparently work. Alright, so we have our first... As a matter of fact, that was just to start the turn, so we might as well just reserve our 2 scouts at this point. We don't have a line of sight, and even though we could establish it, our opponent could counter that move. So we have an attack coming in on our Shadowhawk. Fortunately, we dodge most of that damage, although we did take some of it. Okay. So only 1 confirmed Jenner, but I'm telling you, I think this is the same loadout we fought last time. This is 2 Jenners and a commando. I'm fairly certain this is the commando, and then this last medium mech that's going to go is going to be the hunchback. So unfortunately, it looks like the random opponent feature just doesn't work in the current backer beta. All right, so we could use our Locust as our scout here and use the greater firepower of the commando to move in, poke the Jenner, and move out next turn. If we're going to do that, though, we don't want to have our commando be a viable target. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to Paradise here, and we're going to move so that we can keep our evasive up. We're also going to back off a little bit so the Shadowhawk isn't focused. Oh, I just realized my mistake. I should have had the scout move first. All right, well, that's my bad. I should have done that in a different order than I did. I should have had our Locust move first. My mistake. Let's go ahead and fire everything except the SRM-2, which apparently doesn't have that great of a targeting chance, although our heat buildup's not going to be that great. You know what? We'll go ahead and fire it. But this was a mistake because we're going to have a lot of this damage get dodged and miss. As a matter of fact, we did very minimal damage. So that was a mistake. What I should have done is I should have done the sensor lock first. I was just trying to think ahead for the hunchback, and I just, oh well. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our sensor lock on the Jenner. What I should have done before, because a lot of that stuff that got dodged wouldn't have gotten dodged. We would have done much more damage with the Shadowhawk than we did. Ozone's going to go ahead and attack without moving, as that is the ideal. We could turn off the LRM-10, but to be honest with you, I don't think the... well, actually, we're going to do that because we're going to heat up too much if we don't. Alright, pretty good damage there. Could have been better if I, again, had done the move correctly the first time. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and move in with the commando, which is now free to do so. So what we can do next turn is we can move out our commando and use the sensor lock ability with that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and fire off everything here.
This should be good.
Okay, pretty good damage there. They do get a little bit of a counterattack with the Jenner if they want to attack our commando, which they're going to do.
I'm wounded.
Okay. So at this point, we don't want our commando to take any more damage. But I think what we're going to do, because this Jenner is kind of out in the open, we're going to continue attacking here. Normally, I would move over here, break line of sight, and then use our sensor lock ability. But at this point, we don't need that sensor lock ability to remove evasive. The Jenner doesn't have it. So we're just going to move away so that we break line of sight so the other mechs, our other opponents, cannot take advantage of our commando. And then we're going to fire on the Jenner, hopefully doing good damage, which looks like we did a little bit there. Removing some of its firepower and knocking it down, which is going to allow our heavier mechs to be able to go in and do a lot of damage. Now we have our opponent moving. At this point, we could use Witness to just focus damage on the Jenner, but I think the better move here is to reserve and wait. Because we might be able to kill the Jenner with just one of our mechs. And if that's what we end up being able to do... Okay, and that was the commando that just fired at me. Okay, so Ozone should be able... Oh, can we not hit this target? No, we can't see that target for some reason. Okay. Well, what I can do with Ozone then instead... Well, how about we don't move Ozone first? Let's move over to Paradise instead.
How might I help?
I'm going to continue moving. Now, I have to remember, it has to be a normal move. It cannot be a reverse move. So, as much as I might want to go into cover over here, we have to stay more or less close enough that we can continue here. Now, the thing I have to keep in mind, though, is I want to be far enough away so that I can get damage to be transmitted through our AC5, which honestly I don't know if I'm able to do. So I might actually have to break cover here. Might not be that big of a deal, though. Just barely have target here. But what I'm trying to ideally do with the Shadowhawk is get as much of my firepower on this Jenner as I possibly can. Our LRM-5 is not really a viable option, but at least our AC-5 is. Now we're going to go for the kill on the center torso. If I go for the left arm, we could diminish this mech's weapons to the point that it wouldn't really be a threat, but I want to get this kill here, so let's go ahead for that. Alright, unfortunately, we didn't necessarily hit where we needed to. I am tempted to finish that Jenner off. We have removed a good percentage of its weaponry, though, if we take a look at it. So we have a crit hit on one of its medium lasers, and two of its medium lasers are completely gone. So I'm not exactly sure how crits work in this game. I don't understand what the difference between the red and the yellow is. I'm not sure if this means that the Jenner can still use this weapon, but if they cannot use it, then that means they only have a medium laser and SRM4 left, which is much diminished firepower than normal. So what I could do here is I could sensor lock this mech and go after it with our Centurion, which might be a good call.
Waiting on you, Commander.
I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if it's the best answer, but it is what we're going to try here. I might want to move first, though, with the Locust. So I'm going to move back into this wooded terrain. We're going to face like that, I think. We could fire 2 LRM-5s at this Jenner, but I don't know if that would necessarily finish it off. Maybe. But if we do that, then the Centurion will for sure not have a target. So I'm going to sensor lock the Commando here, giving us a line of sight. And it is out in the open, so that's a good target for Ozone. So we should be able to sling quite a bit of firepower its way. I'm not sure exactly if I want to use these medium lasers or not, but what the heck, why not? Okay, we almost took out its leg there. Pretty good damage. Alright, so I assume that the Jenner is going to go first here. It's going to jump, and it's going to go after the rear of our Centurion. Not something we wanted to be able to do. Okay, it can fire its medium lasers. We might have taken out its ammo for its SRM-4, or maybe it didn't have enough heat to do that move. Okay, so yet again, we're going to be using our Commando here more offensively. So I think I'm going to move here, and we're just going to attack this Jenner. This might expose us to vision, but I have a feeling that if we remove the Jenner, it won't be as much of a problem. Fortunately, Mockingbird doesn't have the best targeting skill, so we might miss a lot here. But it is pretty significant damage that we just slung that way. Okay, here comes their other Jenner. Alright, I have faith that we'll be able to finish off this Jenner without the Locust being used to attack. So, in that way, we've been using the Locust a little bit more for scouting than supporting fire as we were supposed to. I'm going to go ahead and sensor lock up this Jenner, and we're going to use our Centurion to fight. As the Jenner is out in the open, and a good target. Expect the Commando to attack us, which it has done.
I'm losing armor left and right.
Alright, now it's
Reporting.
Paradise's turn. We're going to go ahead and move here. This way we can cover a lot of targets without having to worry too much. Let's go ahead and open up on the Jenner here. Looks like we can get away with it with most of our weapons, so we're going to go ahead, except for the LRM-5, of course. We're going to go ahead and fire. I'm hoping to get a kill here. Unfortunately, we're missing with a lot of our weapons here, so we did not finish off the Jenner. So we're going to have to deal with the Jenner next turn, and that does mean that our Centurion's going to eat damage in its rear probably again. Which is unfortunate. Those were misses that we really couldn't afford. Okay. As a matter of fact, it really didn't eat damage in the rear last time. All right, let's go ahead and do our attack here. We're going to focus on the Jenner, who is out in the open.
Copy that.
Big miss there. But we did manage to eat through the center torso armor, so if we get lucky, we'll be able to take him out. Yeah, the Jenner's going to run here. Maybe going after our Locust. No, it's not going to do any of that. Alright, we may be able to make it pay with our Locust, get in behind it, and open up on it. That'll remove the bulwark. It won't remove the evasive, though. Alright, so I really don't have a strong move here, so we're going to go ahead and just reserve. The Jenner's going to come in for a rear attack. This is going to hurt more because this is going to be a full-on barrage.
Armor blow through. Internal damage.
Okay, Commando's coming in for a flank. Going to continue to attack our Centurion. Okay. So, I think the choice here is to go after the Jenner.
What's the plan?
And I want to get in behind it so it doesn't have any cover. Here's probably good.
Consider it done.
We really don't need sensor locks, in my opinion, so let's just go ahead and fire what we've got here. Unfortunately, the LRM-5 is not in a good spot. I might fire it anyway, though, because we haven't really had that many opportunities to fire it in the first place. And we have the ammo. Why not?
Target acquired and locked in.
We keep missing with our firepower here, and it's starting to kind of piss me off a little bit. As that AC-5 would have hurt the Jenner quite a bit if we had landed it. Okay, so what can we do with Mockingbird here? Can we get in behind? We can. We'd have to come out into the open to do so. Which I guess is alright, all things considered. So I haven't been using my scout mechs to scout all that much, unfortunately. We're going to try and take out this Jenner because it does represent a lot of firepower that we're going to have to remove. Now, it is very heated up, so man, a lot of misses there. Okay.
Waiting on you, Commander.
What is our chance to hit if we move here? Probably pretty good.
Right, Commander.
We're just going to be ignoring this Jenner, which could be a possible threat. The Jenner might come in and do a melee attack on me next turn. We only have a 45% chance to hit with the medium laser, but we have 65% chance to hit with the other weapons. We're going to fire away here. I don't know if we're going to get a kill. This is going to depend upon getting some really good hits here, which I don't think got.
Where that came from.
Okay, so Ozone's going to have to move.
Confirmed.
For a number of different reasons. First off, he can't see what's in front of him, so there's no real point in not moving. Might as well do a reverse move, I think, here. So we'll just step back a little bit and put these guys in our forward arc. I could have done a melee attack, but for this, I think we're just going to come up a little bit. And we'll fire everything except the LRM-10. Hopefully we get good damage here. A lot of missing going on there. Probably because of the jump, honestly, now that I think about it. Fortunately, this mech moved first, so we should be able to take advantage of the Jenner before it gets a chance to move. So I'm going to get into the woods here so we have a little bit better cover. But we are going to open up on this guy with our weapons. Again, our chance to hit is not going to be great, but the Commando has the best chance of taking this guy out. So let's go ahead and fire. We are going to have some heat issues, but that's all right. I'm willing to deal with it. Okay. We've just stripped all of its weapons, more or less. So now it's no longer a threat. We can kind of ignore it. Alright, let's see what happens now. So the Jenner's going to get up. And it's going to just stay still. It had a lot of heat issues anyway. Okay, so with Witness, I think we reserve. We can use our sensor lock ability now to help us out a little bit more than we have. Commander's going to continue to fire at us. All right.
I hear ya.
So, Witness, where you are, cannot get the sensor lock we need, so I'm going to move you around a bit. We are threatened, though, by the Jenners being able to do melee attacks, so I can't do this too lightly. We're going to go after the commando now because it represents a threat to us. Here comes their hunchback. I don't feel like we're doing quite as well as we did with the other build, but I think some of that is just circumstantial stuff. We're not getting very lucky with our hits. We got very lucky with our hits, I feel like, in that other video. All right, we're just going to stay still and attack. So that time we didn't have our guard up, so we ate a lot more damage than we normally would have. All right, so we're going to open up with most of our weapons. I am going to turn the medium lasers off so we can cool off a little bit and just focus on the weapons that are going to do more damage.
I got you.
Hopefully we actually hit with these now. Okay, good. That's going to remove some of the firepower from the commando, although not the significant amount. And we're going to knock down the commando. Okay, this leaves us with Paradise.
How might I help?
And Paradise can get into a position to do damage to the commando trying to take him out. So we can move here. And at this point, I'm ignoring the generals because they're not as great of a threat to me as the other two mechs, the commando and the hunchback. So we're going to focus here. Fortunately, only the LRM and the AC-5 can hit, and they're not particularly great shots. But I am going to go for the kill on the center torso.
Target confirmed.
Ah, we did miss with the AC-5. That was the important damage. The LRM-5 here is not going to do significant damage, although it did hit the center torso. Okay. So here comes some more firepower from that commando.
I took a hit in the meat.
We are going to be able to tank it a little bit better now that we have that guard up.
I'm here.
I think I'm going to use my commando at this point to mostly just focus on the Jenners here. And honestly, we should probably just stay still. And I'll turn off the medium laser and the SRM-4 and just fire the SRM-6.
Firing on.
Okay, managed to kill it.
Mech destroyed.
Here comes the Jenner. As I thought, gonna come in with a melee strike. Oh, or not. Not exactly sure what that was.
What can I do for
Okay, let's move away from the Jenner. I'll move over here. And we'll hit the commando with our LRM-5s. We should be in a pretty good range for that.
coordinates received?
Not exactly sure, though, with the way the rocks and everything work. Alright. Only 55% chance to hit, but we'll go ahead with that.
Special delivery.
Any damage to commando now is going to really hurt, so... Another AC-20 hit. We can't really take that many more of those, so we're going to have to do something about the commando
Some serious shit here, Commander.
eventually. Okay, so
Reporting.
the Shadowhawk has 70, 75, 90, 90. Now, keeping in mind that this guy is guarded, so he will be able to tank that damage pretty well. I think we go after the commando. We gotta kill it, so let's go ahead and fire off our weapons here, hoping for...
Target.
There we go. We got a hit. Alright, we managed to take out its SRM-6, so...
Myself, and I do.
That's good. That's a significant amount of its firepower. Finally, we have Ozone, who is better off staying put. And we really only have one target to shoot at, so we're going to shoot at this Hunchback. We are going to turn off the LRM-10, as there isn't really much of a point in firing that. We'll fire both of the lasers. I can inspire here, and honestly, I think this is maybe a good call for it.
It's on.
We'll get a higher chance to hit, but we'll also remove the guard, which is going to help us a little bit try and turn this slugging match in our favor. But right now, the Centurion is hurting. Oh, we missed with our big damage, so that sucks. Okay, the Jenner is going to engage in a close combat attack, which I kind of saw coming.
Armor breach. Internal damage.
Alright, at this point, we're just going to back away from the Jenner. Or we could just stay where we are and open up on it, to be honest with you. It has no defenses, as far as I can tell, and it's, like, right in front of me, so... I'm almost willing to take a shutdown here to do it. Or at least heat up. Yeah, let's go ahead and fire everything we got here. There's a high chance we'll kill this guy. And down you go.
That's a kill.
So a little bit of heat damage there, but...
Is getting pretty high.
Unfortunately, it does seem like a single crit to a weapon system doesn't necessarily knock it out. And maybe 2 is what you need?
Waiting on you, Commander.
Alright, at this point, we really don't have much of an answer to the Hunchback in this tanking fight. We can poke it with our LRMs. I'm eventually going to want to kill that commando if I can, but right now I think it's better that we try and help our Centurion turn this fight around. So for now, I'm just going to step up a little bit here. And we're going to fire away with our LRM-5s. 90% chance to hit. Now these aren't going to do significant damage, but any amount of damage is going to help. Keeps hitting that AC-20 every time. That, we're not going to... I think we may have to back off from this fight, but to be honest with you, we're actually a lot better off just staying put
Orders.
as far as our damage mitigation, because I can back away, but the problem is now I'm out in the open with no cover, and then if we take an AC-20 hit, that's like bad. That's real bad. So... yeah, I don't think we have much choice here. We just have to stick with it. Well, honestly, though, with our heat being what it is, I am going to back off. So let's go ahead and do a, maybe even a full... We can't do a sprint because we are unsteady. But... I don't want to give them my rear, because that would be catastrophic. Maybe like that. And then we go ahead and we brace so that we can remove this unsteady. And also cool ourselves off. That seems like a good call. Alright. We're going to go ahead and continue to fire with Paradise here. Opening up with our AC-5 and our LRM-5.
Firing.
And we're just going to have to do a bit of a combined effort here to try and take the last 2 mechs out.
Reporting. Serious armor loss.
Okay.
Here.
Mockingbird can try and go in for a kill, but if we do that, we may expose ourselves to an attack from the... Wow, we have to really get in there to get a line of sight, huh? We may be exposing ourselves to an attack from the... I think the better call here is just to use our sensor lock and cool ourselves off this turn. Because we are very hot. Let's go after this commando. Let's sensor lock him.
I hear you.
And Witness is just going to stay right where he is. We're going to use all of our weapons here and fire at the commando, hopefully getting a good kill. There we go. So now we don't have to worry about the Hunchback as much, and I'm almost wishing or hoping that it doesn't have line of sight to our Centurion, but that does not appear to be the case. I wonder about the AC-20. Why was that not fired? Is heat buildup starting to be a problem for our enemy? Maybe.
Yep.
Okay, so Ozone needs the support of his friends. So we're going to continue to back off from our opponent rather than sit and tank. And again, I don't want to give my back if I can avoid it. We do need time to cool off again, so we'll move like that.
Move order received.
And we'll use the guard yet again, or brace. There we go. We don't have line of sight, though, which is unfortunate. Did we move with Mockingbird? Oh, yeah, that's right. We did a sensor lock. All right, well, maybe did that out of order then. I should have probably moved Paradise first. Because now Paradise can't see the opponent, which is unfortunate. All right, well, I'll just move a little bit so that we are at least defensive.
Certainly.
So the next turn we can do something. All right, that was my bad. We'll go ahead and use the brace ability too. So now we've got maximum defense going. All right, so Mockingbird is best used in this case as a sensor lock. I am going to move a little bit here though, so that it's not an obvious target for attack here.
Order acknowledged.
Okay, so that just established the line of sight. Our opponent can do something to mitigate the sensor lock, but
What can I do for you?
now I'm going to assume that the Hunchback has to move here. And if that's the case, it's not going to have guards, so we probably should wait until it moves. So, in that way, we should reserve. The chance is that the Hunchback comes after specifically our Locust or one of our lighter mechs, which it looks like it is possibly. Okay, so what it did is it just went ahead and went defensive here.
You have orders?
Okay, so at this stage, we can go ahead and open up here. I think we should move, though, our Locust, so it's not an obvious target here.
Moving to position.
Get in and use our indirect fire. We might even be able to get in behind at some point, so this is actually not a bad move.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Reporting.
now the Shadowhawk at this range can use most of its weapon systems. We are going to have to move to keep up our evasive, of course. So right here, honestly, is fine with me. Should we use Inspire on this mech? Or should we use it on the Centurion, who probably can do more damage, although the range might be too close? Alright, you know what? We'll go ahead and use the Inspire on Paradise.
Ha-ha! You people don't know who you're dealing with.
Alright, very high chances to hit here. Let's go ahead and fire.
Loading a full tower.
I do think that Ozone had the better chance to actually do more damage here, but I wasn't positive with the range whether or not our LRM-10 could hit, but it does appear that it could, so maybe the wrong choice. Let's go ahead and open up.
Affirmative.
All right, at this point, we can't see the enemy mech, and the enemy mech probably can't see me either.
Reading you.
So I'm just going to go ahead and get another sensor lock going. All right, and as we were doing, I'm going to try and get in behind if I can with Witness. So it looks like we can turn and fire if I move all the way over here. So that's what we're going to do.
Uh-huh.
Reduced chance to hit, but it's still something. And if we get in behind, we'll start being able to remove the guard that it keeps putting up. Okay, it's going to move over this way. I'm going to assume it's going to fire this turn. No, it did not fire this turn. Interesting. All right, so
Orders.
Ozone might as well just stay where he is. We'll turn off the LRM-10 and fire everything else. Paradise is more than likely going to need to move here. So we're going to move. Train is kind of blocking line of sight in most of the places I move. So I'll just go ahead and move here. Actually, maybe a little bit further away. To there. We're just barely getting within that line of sight.
Have no doubt it will be done.
Let's go ahead and fire everything.
Understand.
This mech is fairly cool running, so... Okay, so we don't need the sensor lock anymore.
Here.
And... she should be fairly cool now, as a matter of fact she is. Let's go ahead and move with Witness first, though, because we can get that rear attack, I think. Yeah. Let's get in behind this rock. That way the Hunchback will have a harder time just turning around and blasting us.
No need to tell me twice.
We'll get in, remove the guard, attack that rear armor. And I don't know how many more shots we have with this.
I like this.
Should have 5 more, so... oh wow, we ate through that rear armor. Hunchbacks apparently don't have that much rear armor, so fairly easy to do. We'll reserve. Another AC-20 hit against us. So, ouch.
My internals are taking a beating.
We're probably going to have to think disengaging with Ozone at this point.
Reading you.
Alright, to try and do much damage as we can, we'll come in,
Location confirmed.
strike with Commando, and then next turn we'll just move out because we can. Not great chances to hit here, but we're going to take them nonetheless. If we can get in on that rear armor, that this should go pretty well.
You have orders?
So Paradise is only going to have to move a little bit here just to maintain the evasive. We are going to disengage with the Centurion so that we stop taking the massive damage that we're taking. Go ahead and fire everything we've got here.
Unleashing hell.
Unfortunately missing with our big damage here. As a matter of fact, missing with most of our damage there. Okay, so...
Well,
we are missing the alarm Tem too. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just do... oh, I can't do a sprint, unfortunately. We're going to move in behind this rock. Shouldn't be able to see me anymore. And we'll go ahead and brace so that we can run away later if we need to. Okay, so Witness's turn.
what can I do for you?
Gonna come in over here and continue to fire at that rear armor, which it looks like we do pretty significant damage to.
Roger that.
All right, good.
Yes.
Mockingbird should not stay where she is. We should try and go for that flank if we can get it.
Move order received.
This way we have options to come in behind this mech or continue to stay behind the mech if we can. We'll go ahead and sensor lock so that if the Hunchback does move, it's going to have limited options. Okay, fortunately missed there. Okay, so no defense at all. Let's just move slightly so that we keep our evasive up.
As you wish.
And we're going to open up with... I'm going to fire everything, even though the LRM-5 doesn't have a great chance to hit. Okay. So at this point, we can take a risk here, and we can come in and try and do more damage to the Hunchback. This might be enough to take him out. And if not, hopefully our lighter mechs can come in and finish the job before the Hunchback is a threat. Now, we haven't removed its main firepower, so this is a risk. Okay. So we are going to look for that kill if we can get it. So I'm going to have Witness move up so that we can go ahead and hit that rear armor. I don't know if the commander's going to be able to move enough to get into the rear armor, but if not, we can try a different tactic. We are able to fire all of our weapons here, which it looks like we managed to get the kill. Alright, so that took a little bit more time, I think, because we had a little less luck, but we also had a little less raw damage, I think, with this loadout than we did with our previous one. But our Centurion did a fantastic job tanking damage, took a lot of damage, and unfortunately, the Shadowhawk never really tanked as much as maybe we should have had it do, but I think we came out of that one okay. Definitely the Centurion took a ton of damage, so maybe a little bit different tactics, and we would have been able to try and mitigate some of that a little bit better. Again, I think we got a little bit unlucky at times with some of our shots, as we could have taken out that commando a lot earlier than we did, and we had some bad luck with the Jenners. But overall, the match went pretty well. I think this loadout is pretty interesting. As I said, it does give you some redundancies so that, again, if, for example, you get unlucky and your commando gets taken out, you don't have, it's not as devastating to you in that you aren't going to lose all your scouting. You're going to have a backup in your locust. And I would say, really, for me, the weak point of this alliance is possibly the Shadowhawk, just because of its firepower. I'm not really that big of a fan of the way that its firepower is built. The SRM-2 and medium laser are just not enough of a close-in threat for a frontliner, and that's the way we are using this mech. So in that way, I'd say that the Shadowhawk is a little bit of a weak point. And I think we saw that with the way that I ended playing this out, as I ended up having the Shadowhawk in the back more as a support mech, rather than the frontliner it should have been, because of the lack of firepower at that closer range. So I think an important aspect of a frontline mech is having decent close range firepower so that you can appropriately tank the damage. In any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.